Welcome to Moody's podcast. Do you guys know that question you get from your homegirl, or not even a question, but you and your homegirl are sitting and talking about this girl from high school that no one really got along with, and no one could really understand why this person was such a bitch to other people. And then you eventually grow older and you figure out that this girl is now the world's most talked about person ever, and they hold a pretty big legacy on their name to this day, and that person ends up being Judith Ward. I don't think anyone could imagine going to school with Judith Ward and then, going, hey, Judith Ward is famous now, because she was a bitch. So how is she famous? So we're going to talk about that today. But before I get into Judith's story, I wanted to share I was actually able to set up an interview with Miss Ward herself. That way she's able to clear her story and her name even more. So that is the big surprise that I have for you guys. I can't wait to interview her. She should be here in about an hour. So I have an hour to get into her story, at least what the world knows about her. Yeah, we'll get to hear from Judith herself to see what she has to say about all of the rumors she's heard about her throughout her entire career. Might as well say her entire life, honestly. I feel like she's been in the industry for quite a while now. It's been almost 2 decades. I'm ready to get into her story, so let's go ahead and begin. So Judith was born and raised in Del Sol Valley, of course. Born to Eleanor and Clark Ward. Those were her parents. She attended Valley Elementary for about a year and ended up being homeschooled, later attending private school, I would say from 5th grade to 12th grade. And of course, she met many people but faced difficulties making and keeping friends. So I was also able to talk to a few people that know Judith or has had some interactions with Judith, and a lot of them did not have anything nice to say about her. Basically, when she was going to private school, she had about 2 friends, I would say. One of them being Nancy Landgrab, who a lot of people know her as well. Even her and Nancy, I would say, had a few fallouts because they come from 2 rich ass families. They're gonna bump heads, okay? But a lot of people did not like Judith specifically because of her personality. They just felt like she was a very shitty person. She was hard to get along with. She always thought she was better than everyone. She was very snouty, very bitchy. Everyone stayed away from Judith, not because they were scared of her, but they just didn't want any parts with her. So it was very hard for Judith to make friends, because even when she wanted to talk to people, they were just like, no thank you, I'll just go talk to my other friends. They didn't want anything to do with Judith. So in 9th grade, that's when Judith and Nancy got really close with each other. And as an elective, Nancy decided to join theater and acting classes, and Judith didn't have any friends, like I said. So although she had no interest in acting or doing theater, she was like, you know what, I'm gonna just ride with my friend, because I don't want to go in classes with other random people. Her and Nancy had a lot of classes together, so she's like, why not join an elective with Nancy, because they had to take an elective in order to graduate. So she signed up with Nancy in acting and theater classes. And Judith, believe it or not, did not like those classes at first. She, like I said, was uninterested. She didn't see why a lot of people joined these classes, and she thought it was stupid. but she did it because she wanted to be there with her friend and for her friend. Unexpectedly, Judith got so many compliments on her acting skills. Judith got so good that the teacher contacted her parents, but of course her parents were kind of just like, oh, okay, that's really good to know. But behind closed doors, they're like, why are you taking acting classes? Do you really think you'll be able to make it out in the industry? You're not going to be able to be an actress. So Judith was like, in her head, she actually started to enjoy acting, and to hear that from her parents, it was very hard, but she tried not to let it get to her, and she kept acting. And then eventually in Judith's 12th grade year, a movie producer visited her school, and that movie producer watched one of Judith's performances. Judith was so good, he stayed and watched the whole class, which took up about 4 hours, because Judith would stay after school even to work on her acting skills. And eventually that movie producer asked the teacher, who is that girl? She's going to get somewhere one day. She's going to be really good in movies. Anywhere that we put her, I can see a bright future ahead of her. Give me her name. I want to take note and put her in something small. And the teacher did exactly that. Right after, I would say a few months later, Judith ended up booking a small gig. It was a small commercial acting part, and that's when she fell in love with that, and the producers and people behind the camera fell in love with Judith, and they later decided to, or not they, but Judith later decided to make acting her career. She shortly started to grow a few connections within the industry, and she felt like she created some sort of bond with others around her, and she felt like she formed a bigger name for herself and her family, because her family, like I said, they were very, very rich, born into a rich family. She's technically a Nepo baby, but they weren't rich for being famous. They were more rich because they did other stuff on the side. I'm not really going to get into her family because it's not really out there yet, but yeah, so they're not really famous. So she's trying to make a bigger name for herself and the wards, and that's when she eventually got into a big mess. I remember this like yesterday, when a lot of people were talking about rumors of Judith having an affair with 𝓭𝓪𝓻𝓮, which, if you guys don't know who 𝓭𝓪𝓻𝓮 is, he was at the time an older entrepreneur. I would say he was about 50 years old, and he also was the father of Judith's close friend Nancy Landgrab, which, is it clicking to you guys yet that Chester was Nancy's father? Like, how did that even start? Nobody knows. It's beyond crazy, or no one knew at the time, at least. The affair, I would say, happened pretty quickly. Judith later ended up being pregnant on accident. It was alleged to be an accident, and she decided to hide her pregnancy and give birth in secret with a trusted family doctor that has been known to be in her family for years. So it's the only doctor really that the Ward family has, and she's like, if I have to trust anyone, it's going to be this person specifically, because I know they're not going to say anything. Then that's when it got hard hiding her baby, because of course the paparazzis, it's hard to keep them out of the picture. That's when she did an interview, because she really had no choice, and she explained that she adopted her child, which was named Morgan, or her name is Morgan, from a poor family, and she thought that that would save her image. She thought that saying that would be good for her reputation, and that there would be no backlash that comes from saying that. Once Morgan was old enough, Judith made one rule for her, and that was to stay out of her way and to not take the spotlight. And for that, Morgan was rarely seen in the picture, and it's quite sad now that if you look back and think about it. But in Judith's mind, she had to been trying to protect something. I don't know what it is, but why would you want your child to stay out of the spotlight, you know? So she had to try to be protecting Morgan's not legacy, but she didn't want Morgan to go through what she had to face in the industry. That's how I take it, at least. But everyone paints Judith out to be the bad guy, so a lot of people take that as her being selfish and jealous. I don't know. Something in me feels like Judith has a soft spot because she's human. You know, we all play the tough guy at some point, but she just doesn't know how to turn it off in a way until she's behind closed doors. But I don't know. So one day Morgan was spotted, and fans of course noticed how much she resembled Judith and found it odd to, you know, because if Morgan's adopted, why does she look just like Judith? It was very crazy. And I too was one of the ones that thought that Morgan resembled Judith so much. So to stop suspicions, Judith adopted triplets, Aja, Thomas, and Jay. I don't know if I'm saying Aja right. I think that's how you say it, because she thought that actually adopting more kids into the family, people would be like, okay, maybe she did actually adopt Morgan, but it wasn't adding up. People still thought that Morgan resembled her, so it wasn't really making sense. But that rumor did get out of the spotlight for quite a while. I would say about 5 minutes. No, not really, but it was out of the spotlight for a bit, but people still were talking about it. When the triplets got older, that's when they started to discover themselves. Aja went into the rapper career, or she wanted to be a rapper. Thomas wanted to be a sports star, and Jay, on the other hand, was different in a way. He wanted to be an artist. And of course, Morgan, being the older sister, she decided to follow her dreams as well, to because she saw that her siblings were figuring out their lives. So she's like, I can't put a bad image being the older sister. I have to give them some type of motivation. Why should I put my dreams to the side for my mom when I'm a grown-ass woman now and my siblings want to do good? So I have to be that stepping stone for them, I feel like. So Morgan started to get into YouTube and making music, and that's when she dropped her first debut single, or is it debut or debut? I think it's debut single, called "And Quiet," and it became a huge hit in Delso Valley and even like worldwide, but mainly in Delso Valley. It made the topic of her being Judith's biological daughter trend again, which of course Judith had a problem with. And on that song, she spoke a little bit about her life, which left fans feeling bad for her, and they hated Judith even more. So it became a Judith hate train at this point. And that upsetted Judith even more, which rightfully so. But at the end of the day, Judith, you were kind of a bad mom, at least like on the internet. So fans had a right to hate, but then again, widespread hate, just mind your business, because this is not our family. But fans did feel bad for Morgan because she didn't deserve to be treated how she was treated, if it's true what she was saying in her music. So after a while, Judith started to miss her child, and she came clean to Morgan, and it broke their relationship even more. Like they didn't talk for months. Morgan held that grudge for months. And that's understandable, because for her whole life she went thinking that she was adopted. and that she came from this poor family and was just blessed to be adopted by Judith Ward. Later to find out that whole time Judith is her real mom. So it's like, what else could she be hiding from me, you know? So Morgan was very upset. It took her quite some time to come back around. And the only reason that their relationship reconciled was because Morgan made Judith have a sit down with her and her biological father, which she did not know was Chester Landgrab, but that actually brought the three of them together again, which led to Judith and Chester restarting their love affair. And you know, Chester eventually accepted the triplets as well. And for a while, they became a happy family, I would say. Life was great, I would say. It was so good for the Ward/Landgrab family that Chester decided to propose to Judith, even though his family was strongly against it. But that didn't matter. The two were literally the good version of Bonnie and Clyde. Like, none of anyone's opinions mattered, and it was kind of too late at that point. Their relationship was so good that Judith decided to take a break from her acting career to work on her personality and to bond with her family more. And like I said, she was in love. And then that's when Chester suddenly suffered a massive heart attack. And that broke the news like a wildfire as well. It was quite a crazy time, especially for Judith and Chester's family. And for a while, the Landgrabs thought that Judith did offed him because of his money. You know, it's the Landgrabs. Y'all know they founded Willow Creek, I think it was. They founded one of the towns. I think it was Willow Creek. So they thought that Judith was after his money because they were proposed, you know, or not proposed. They were engaged to each other. So they're like, Judith definitely did this. She definitely had a finger behind this. But they saw how much Judith was grieving, and then they felt bad for making those accusations and later apologized to the world because they found out it was not Judith. So like I said, it left Judith and Chester's family in distraught. The internet was quite quiet for some time. It was a very sad time. 2 years later, Judith got lonely and decided to connect with Jacques Villarreal when she went on Cupid's Corner. She found him the most attractive that popped up on her feed. And at first, the connection wasn't as strong as Chester and her. You know, of course it wouldn't be. But to keep her name alive, she shortly decided to get married to him. And eventually she moved out and left Morgan to take care of the house and her 3 triplet siblings. That was very chaotic for Morgan especially. It left her in quite a rage because she's like, how are you going to leave us for this man that you just met like not too long ago? We're very much still grieving, by the way. What the hell are you doing? And of course, that marriage didn't last long, and Judith fell into another small depression, and she was left to care for Jacques's kids because he left her for another woman. What a surprise, what a shocker. And some would say that was Judith's karma for leaving Morgan with her kids. And some time went by and Morgan gave birth to her first baby, Trinity Ward, which pushed Morgan's name in the spotlight even more. It became the #1 trending topic for quite a while, and not in a bad way. Everyone was very happy for her. Fans were very shocked and also happy for her and hoped nothing but the best for Morgan, and they hoped that Morgan would be the better version of her mom to her new baby girl Trinity. So then shortly after Morgan gave birth, she decided to take a break from music and YouTube. Well, she was still posting on YouTube, just not as much as she would before. But, you know, she was keeping her friends up to date here and there. And eventually Morgan got the Best Mother Award, Best Mother of the Year award. And she also earned a star on Starlight Boulevard, which Judith, of course, was jealous as fuck, being that it took her years to get her star. And she felt that Morgan was way too young to win Mother of the Year, and that she should have got most of the credit because, you know, she thought that, hey, I raised Morgan. Morgan is the reason that she's even a good mother. I mean, not Morgan. I'm the reason that Morgan's a good mom, because she had to learn it from somebody, you know? So in the midst of all of that nonsense and drama, Aja's music career started to take off. As a teen dropout, she had Morgan's full support, and Morgan wanted nothing but the best for her siblings. So she was there every step of the way, even with her new baby girl, Trinity, being in the picture. She was still there by her siblings' side, and it left Judith very, very angry. And out of spite, Judith kicked her ex-husband's kids out of their mansion, and one day decided to sneak into Morgan's house. Well, not really sneak, but she was like, hey, I want to be there for you and the baby a little bit. I'm a little lonely. I need some company. I want to be able to help you in any way possible. So Morgan was like, sure, you can stay. You can come back home, you know. I still live in the same mansion that you left us in. Come stay tonight. Judith snuck around that whole entire night waiting for everyone to fall asleep. And in the middle of the night, she stole Trinity. Crazy, right? And she blackballed Morgan's security and ruled them to keep their lips sealed or else. And that is all her security told me. When I heard that, I was like, that is crazy. I have to talk to Judith about this when she comes in later. Because, girl, you need to clean your name up. Like, this is crazy. But the security guards, when I talked to them, they seemed very honest, very traumatized. Like, they still live this day. Like, they will never forget this day. It haunts them. They said she was like very evil, and she was the worst version of herself that she could be. Judith's actress skills played a very good part when it came down to pretending to be hurt and concerned. After Morgan called her and asked, as she heard from Trinity or seen Trinity, because Trinity is a baby, she can't call her mom and say, hey, grandma she took me away. It's given very much Rapunzel. So Morgan became very, very, very depressed. She shut herself out from her siblings. They felt horrible and they felt useless. Morgan had to go through many years of therapy, and she's still in therapy. Judith ended up moving out of the Villa Real mansion to a remote area in Strangerville with Morgan's baby, and she decided to hire a full-time nanny, 𝓶𝓾𝓼𝓬𝓻 Brown. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, to help raise Trinity, because Judith still had to work, of course, and she also threatened Miss Brown not to say anything. So for years, Miss Brown was raising this baby. She didn't even know whose baby it was, and she didn't put two and two together that this is Morgan's missing child. She did find it very strange that Judith was in Strangerville, because Strangerville wasn't known to hold celebrities there. So she's like, what is Judith doing in this crazy ran down town? Like, it's not adding up. Yeah, Judith's story is very crazy. I have a lot of questions for her. She has a lot to talk about with me because I'm going to dig into every rumor there is about her. This is just very crazy. I really hope that this is false. Morgan didn't really get into too many details. She hasn't spoken to Judith since, so it's quite a sad story. Very sad on Judith's end as well. I hope they can one day talk it out, and I hope Judith actually finds the help that she needs. But speaking of Judith and getting the help she needs, she is finally here. So let's go ahead and get into welcoming her into this podcast and seeing what she has to say about all of this. Hi Judith, welcome in. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I've got some coffee set here in case you get a little thirsty, and in the middle there is a salad bowl as well.
Sounds great, thank you. The setup looks very nice and cozy.
Thank you. I've tried so hard to make everything look cozy and homey, but Judith, it looks as if you're expecting. Are you hiding a little baby bump?
I am. I'm in my first trimester currently. Believe it or not, this happened by accident, just like with my first. I took a vacation to 𝓶𝓸𝓫𝓪𝓷, and unexpected things happened while I was there.
Well, congratulations. I wish you nothing but safe delivery, and I hope you have a good pregnancy. This is very shocking news.
Why, thank you, dear.
So, how was it growing up with your parents?
It was so hard. So hard. People see me as the bad, horrible monster, but my parents, that's another story. Over the years, I've grown to forgive them.
Would you like to tell us anything about your parents to kind of help us understand you a little more?
My parents both grew up to rich families. Both sides had serious mental health issues that eventually passed down to me. My mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and my father had a severe case of bipolar disorder. You wouldn't even be able to imagine what their arguments were like. It was very traumatizing, and I think that played a huge role in who I used to be. They were always all about themselves, that they made me think that it was okay to treat other people how they treated me, like they were better than others and no one could ever step above them. God bless to anyone who dared to get close. Shall I even finish the rest?
That seems like you had a lot on your plate, Miss Ward, and I'm truly sorry. One could only imagine. So, tell us, why should we believe that you changed?
I already know that I will forever have a legacy just by my name alone. So it's really a waste of time to fight for the spotlight, already knowing that others would lose. It got old. That version of myself had burned out.
Okay, so let's talk about your kids, starting with Morgan. Why did you want to hide her for so long? Being that you have a huge name, why did revealing your pregnancy matter to you the most?
Honey, when you have been in the industry, you'll know the world will chew you apart. I may have a strong name, but that's just a name, an image to portray. After faking it, you'll realize I am still human after all, and I too have feelings. I still remember there were so many rumors about my pregnancy and who my baby's father was, and people making lies about me wanting to protect my image. Just lies on top of lies. The whole 9 months of my pregnancy was horrible because of those comments. That is why I tried my very best to keep my pregnancy hidden and close to those near me. Protecting me and my baby's peace meant the most to me at the time. I just wanted to truly bond with her and Chester without any backlash.
Speaking of Chester, how did your guys' relationship come about?
Great question. We met through Nancy, of course. And to clear the air, I was of age and I did not have intentions to sleep with Nancy's father. Nancy was in the shower one night. I had went downstairs to get something to drink, and her father so happened to still be awake. It was almost 1 in the morning, so I was expecting him to be asleep, not knowing he was a night owl and a heavy drinker. I guess since he was single and lonely, he decided to talk to me. 10 minutes of us talking somehow made me feel more connected. It's like our souls matched instantly. I'd say it was the exact definition of love at first sight.
I'm sure a part of you felt horrible for falling in love with your best friend's dad, right?
Oh, I felt so horrible. Nancy was furious when she found out I'd been sneaking behind her back with her father. I understand that it was highly disrespectful of me, but you can't stop the feeling of true love. And I'm sure you know my reputation with men, but Chester was different. He was a man. The way he made me feel was just out of this world, and it can't be explained through words.
Yeah, they say true love is hard to break away from. So, when you guys found out you were pregnant, what were your guys' reactions? Like, how did that feel?
I remember being so scared. I nearly panicked. But Chester was ecstatic. He didn't have one care in the world and actually talked me into keeping the baby. Eventually, Nancy came back around once we told her she was going to be the big sister to our child. Nancy and I weren't best friends anymore, but I can say she is the best big sister in the world to Morgan, even to this very moment.
That is so sweet. Okay, I'm so glad she could put your guys' problems to the side to be there for her baby sister. So I have a really big question that a lot of us are wondering.
Of course, ask away.
Did you really kidnap Trinity Ward, or was that just a big, obnoxious rumor?
You know, it was quite funny when I heard that rumor. No, I did not kidnap my granddaughter. It was a misunderstanding. I told Morgan I wanted to be there with her to help care for Trinity, and thought she understood me when I told her I was going to be staying in Strangeville to get away from the press for a while, and wanted to take that time to bond with my first grandchild. So I took Trinity and left. I disconnected my phone so I wasn't stressing over the bad press and drama spreading through the internet, and took care of Trinity with the help of a part-time nanny that I had hired.
Wait, so what made you disconnect your phone? That doesn't sound right, Judith, especially going so far away.
I wasn't disconnecting it to be sneaky or shady. I genuinely wanted to be at peace in this town that nobody would ever imagine me to be in. Like I've stated, I thought I made it clear to Morgan, but she must have been half asleep during our conversation, as it was late at night and she was extremely tired from being out at the studio all day.
Okay, how did you feel after your children's careers started to take off?
Happy.
Just happy?
I just feel a little bit uncomfortable now. It seems as if this conversation is making a shift.
What do you mean by that?
Are you trying to make me sound like the bad guy? I thought you were going to help me clear my name.
Judith, I'm honestly just a little bit confused, and I'm sure the viewers are too. I wanted to believe everything you were saying up until I asked about the kidnapping of Trinity. Because I've spoken to both Morgan and her security guards, and they told me a different story than you are right now, something just doesn't seem right, if that makes sense.
Morgan and I aren't on the best of terms due to that misunderstanding that took place years ago. So of course she's going to do all she can to continue dragging me under the dirt. But will I sit here and bash my daughter for all of the things she's done behind closed doors? No, because I still love her, and she's still a part of my DNA. She is my child. With that being said, I have nothing to lie about. I wouldn't be here knowing the questions you are asking me. Come on now, don't be foolish.
All right, Miss Ward. Well, I have one more question to get into before you go. Why did you kick Jacquees's kids out of their original home?
They were grown. It's not like they were children. Let alone, they were always so disrespectful and rude and didn't help me with anything. They were selfish and the true definition of a snob, or what one would say, brat. And I didn't just kick them out, I got into contact with their relatives whom agreed to take them under their wings.
Okay, well, thank you, Judith, for coming on my podcast. I still have so many questions I'd like to ask, but I'm afraid we have ran out of time.
It was a pleasure. I just want to say to my fans, I love you all and I am telling you the truth. I'm so tired of people coming after me with negativity. It's been years of hell. I am innocent until proven guilty. And who my haters? You'll never be able to sit at my table.
All right, well, there you have it. Do you guys think Judith is a nice woman after all? Or do you guys still think there's more to the story and more questions that need to be asked? Let me know in the comments below. But that's all that I have for today's podcast. Let me know who you would like to come on this show next. This was very fun to do. I had a blast. It was nice talking to Judith one-on-one. I do still believe that there's a lot to be uncovered, but we'll save that for another time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and stopping by. And until the next time, I'll see you guys soon. Dag dag.